Today we're going to be going over function notation. A function can be thought of as a statement that assigns one output to each input. So one output to each input. So that F right there in this statement that we have stands for function. That X is your input. The way we read this statement with the F parenthesis and then the X is F of X. This whole thing right here, 3x plus 4, is called the output. So our statement, F of X equals 3x plus 4, is given. So for that statement, they want us to illustrate F of 2 and F of negative 1 using the function machines below. So what that means is we're going to first start with F of 2. So if I have to input a 2, what would be the output? Well, right here, instead of X, notice that they plugged in a 2. So instead of X, we're going to input a 2. So when I come down here to input it into my function machine, I'm going to put 3. Instead of X, I'm plugging in a 2 and then plus 4. So I have to work that out. What is 3 times 2? That's 6. And then plus 4, that's going to give you 10. So the output right here is going to be 10. So that means F of 2 is equal to 10. Next, we're going to go ahead and do F of negative 1. So I'm going to input a negative 1. So now that we input a negative 1, we're going to go ahead and type that into the 3. Instead of X, we're inputting our negative 1 and then plus 4. So same process, 3 times negative 1, that's negative 3, plus 4, that gives you 1. So the output is 1. So F of negative 1 is equal to 1. Page 2. On page 2, we have a whole bunch of problems that we have where F of X is X squared plus 3, and our G of X is X plus 1. So really, the first problem says find F of 3. Since we're only looking at F, we're looking at this function right here. I don't care about this one over here right now. I only care about the F. So it says input a 3. So I have to do 3 squared plus 3. So we have to figure out the value. I'm going to write it down here of 3 squared plus 3. Notice that instead of the X right there, we plugged in a 3. So 3 squared, that's 9, plus 3 is going to give you 12. So our answer is 12. Problem 2, F of 3. G of 3. So we got to go to G this time, and instead of X, we're inputting a 3. So really, it's just 3 plus 1, which is 4. So our answer is 4. Problem 3, F of negative 2. So here, instead of X, we're inputting a negative 2, and then we have to square it, plus 3. Notice that I put parentheses. When you type this in, you have to use parentheses to show that you mean negative 2 times negative 2, because otherwise it won't give you the correct answer, which is 4. So negative 2 squared, that's 4, plus 3 gives you 7. The next one, G of 0. So we go to G and we input a 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Problem 5. Problem 5 says to find F of 2 plus G of 1. So we're going to have to do each one separate. I got to figure out what is F of 2 and then what is G of 1, and then I can add them together. So I'm going to start with F of 2. I used a bracket because I'm going to do F of 2 first. So 2 squared plus 3. I have to do that. Plus we have G of 1. That's a separate one. So we're going to do 1 plus 1. So now we have to figure out F of 2. That's 4 plus 3, which is 7. And then our G of 1 is 1 plus 1, which is 2. So 7 plus 2 is 9. So our answer is 9. Problem number 6, G of negative 1 plus F of 1. So first we're going to find g of negative 1, and I'm going to use my brackets again. This time we go to g and we input a negative 1. So negative 1 plus 1 plus f of 1. So this time we go to f and we input a 1. So 1 squared plus 3. And now we work out. Negative 1 plus 1, that's just 0, plus we have 1 squared, that's 1, plus 3, so that's 4. So 0 plus 4 gives you 4. Problem number 7. It says number 11, f of 5. So we have to input a 5 right here. Instead of x, we're putting a 5. So f of 5 is equal to 5 squared, not plus, but minus 3 times 5. Let me just erase that. So it's 5 squared minus 3 times 5. Okay, so f of 5 is equal to 5 squared, that's 25, minus 15. So that's going to give you 10. So the answer is C, 10. And you can go ahead and input a C right there. Problem 12. F of 3 given f of x is equal to negative 3 times x plus 1. So f of negative 3 is going to be equal to negative 3 times negative 3, because we have to input that negative 3 right there for x, plus 1. So that's going to give you f of negative 3 equals 9 plus 1, which is 10. So the answer is D, positive 10. Problem 13. If f of x equals 2x minus 5, which expression represents f of 1? So here, instead of f of x, they want you to put x plus 1. Notice that we have to use parentheses. So instead of x, I'm going to input x plus 1 and then minus 5. Now, whenever we have parentheses, remember our rule is to get rid of it by doing distributive property for that parenthesis. So that's 2x plus 2 minus 5. This can be simplified further to give you 2x minus 3. So the answer is A, 2x minus 3. Problem 14. From the graph, evaluate the given values below. Evaluate f of 0. So remember, it's like f of x. So what they're telling you is when x is 0, what is your y values? What's the output if you input a 0 for x? So I'm going to go to my x-axis. Here's the x. And we go find when x is 0. So it's right here. My y value is going to be negative 1. Now, if I input a 2, if x is 2, go to your x-axis. When x is 2, what is the output? The y value is a negative 2. The last one, if x is equal to negative 2, so here's my x-axis, go to negative 2, what's your y value? It's at 0. Okay, the very last one, 15. A painter charges $200 plus $25 for each gallon of paint used. Write a function to represent the total charge for a certain number of paint cans. Evaluate f of 4 and state what it represents. So f of x is our function. We have to write a function. It's going to be $200 for the painter to charge. That's what he charges, plus 25 a gallon, so 25x. X is how many gallons we have to paint or use, okay? Because it's saying to write it as a function. Now, if we have to find f of 4, that means input a 4 for your x. So 200 plus 25 times 4. So if I had to work that out, I would get 300. What does this mean? What is the f of 4 and what does the 300 stand for? Well, the 4 stands for 4 gallons of paint. And the 300 right here stands for would cost $300 for the painter to use the 4 gallons. Okay, guys, so today you're going to be working on function notation.